Welcome, seekers of knowledge, to the Valhalla Experience. Today we cast our gaze upon the very dawn of the Viking Age. When it began, why it rose from the cold heart of Scandinavia, and how the rugged lands of fjords and forests forged a people destined to sail the world. Let us begin this tale where all sagas must, at the origins.
Welcome to the Valhalla Experience, folks. Today, we're diving deep into the origins of an age that redefined not only Scandinavia, but all of Europe. With a mix of harsh climates and bold adventures.
Yep, absolutely. We're exploring when and why the Viking Age kicked off, and where these fearless seafarers truly came from. It's not just about raiding, but about survival, culture, and, the shaping of an entire continent.
Right. So let's start with the geography of Scandinavia. Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and at times Finland and even Iceland pop into the mix. The region is rugged with mountains, fjords, and, dense forests. It's like nature itself forged a warrior spirit. It's like, necessity breeding innovation.
Yeah. And when you think about it, those harsh, long winters and meager farmlands really pushed the locals to become exceptional shipbuilders. Their proximity to the sea meant that if you're gonna survive, you've got to be able to navigate and exploit those unforgiving waters.
Exactly. And that maritime expertise is what later allowed the Vikings not only to raid, but also to establish far-reaching trade networks. Sort of like, turning nature's challenge into a launchpad for adventure.
Right. Now moving into the timeline, the Viking Age is usually pinned from 793 CE to 1066 CE. The raid on Lindisfarne in 793, which sent shockwaves across the Christian world, set the stage for it all, right?
Yes, and, that raid wasn't just a one-off. It was the beginning of a very long period of expansion and cultural shifts. And then in 1066, with the battle at Stamford Bridge and the fall of figures like King Harold Hardrada, we see a sort of end to that era.
Exactly, right. But it's not as if the Vikings just, sprang out of nowhere. Their roots went deep into the earlier workings of Germanic tribes, the migration era, and even trade with the Romans. Those precursors played a key role in forming the warrior ethos.
For sure. And the cultural side of it. The myths, the oral traditions, the ideas of honor and strength. These were ingrained into their very being. And it wasn't all warm and fuzzy. These were warriors shaped by survival in a brutal climate.
Yeah, speaking of survival, one of the intriguing points is why this whole expansion happened. Overpopulation and limited resources really pushed many to leave home in search of wealth and opportunity. It wasn't solely about the adrenaline of raiding, it was about finding, fertile ground for prosperity.
Right, exactly. The local political changes, like the formation of kingdoms, started adding pressure too. Imagine being a young son in a crowded family with nowhere to inherit land. What do? You set sail, hoping for a new start, and maybe, just maybe, score some treasure along the way.
I mean, it's almost like the Vikings were the pioneers of early adventure tourism, seeking out richer lands, engaging in trade, and even establishing settlements far from home. They weren't just raiders, they were explorers too.
Absolutely. And speaking of exploration, longships played a monstrous role. Their design was so advanced it allowed for, ventures far beyond what anyone had attempted before. These longships were, you might say, the sports cars of their time.
And while some might argue that raiding was just a guise for plunder, I think it's important to note the role of trade and settlement. Vikings founded settlements in England, Ireland, Normandy, even reaching North America. It's pretty incredible when you think about it.
Indeed, and that brings us to how these voyages weren't simply destructive missions. Many of the Viking incursions led to, significant cultural exchanges. They brought back new ideas, technologies, and even spices, like a historical melting pot meeting between old and new worlds.
Yeah, I agree. But I do have a slight critique here. While we celebrate the Vikings for their navigational and trading skills, it's important to remember that, their actions also sparked intense conflicts. The same traits that made them resilient also made them, well, fearsome warlords. Would you say that undermines the cultural legacy a bit?
That's a fair point. Their legacy is definitely a double-edged sword. On one hand, you've got this formidable image of raiders, but on the other, the foundation they laid for medieval Scandinavian kingdoms is undeniable. It's like, balancing the scales between conquest and innovation.
Yep, right, and that transformation, where the Viking Age didn't just end abruptly but transitioned into more organized kingdoms with central monarchies and the spread of Christianity, is fascinating. It signals a shift in both power structures and cultural identities across the region.
Exactly. It wasn't just a period of bloodshed, but one that reshaped society. Even after the era of raiding, the spirit of exploration and cultural exchange carried on, which is a testament to, how even turbulent times can lead to
Indeed.
progress.
And, it's interesting how, economic motivations like the lure of wealth and the trade of silver slaves and other goods played into this. Economic imperatives combined with political ambitions really push these aggressive expansions. That synergy is something you rarely see in history.
Yeah, it's like they were driven by a mix of hunger and ambition, literally and metaphorically. And while many of us might, laugh at the image of monks whining about longships, it underscores how radically different the Vikings were from the settled, monastic societies of their time.
Right. Certainly, the cultural shock was immense. For many contemporaries, it was not just physical, but also a clash of world views, an encounter between the established order and a wild new force of nature.
And that duality carries on into the legacy meaning. The Vikings laid down, the groundwork for modern nations in Scandinavia, blending their own traditions with influences from the lands they touched.
Absolutely. Their settlements in places like England and Normandy eventually led to, deep-rooted cultural and genetic influences that persist even today. It really was more about transformation than mere destruction.
Precisely. And one has to admire how they, leveraged their technological edge with those longships. It was like they were born with a secret recipe for traversing both turbulent seas and, the often calm world of trade routes.
Yeah, right. But here is an interesting twist. Even though their longships allowed rapid, surprise strikes, they also were the vehicles that carried settlers tirelessly across vast oceans, thus planting the seeds of new communities across continents.
Yeah, it's like they had their own version of globalization way before modern times. And the more you dig into it, the more you see that the Vikings were not merely pillagers. They were stakeholders in a broader narrative of exchange, innovation, and adaptation.
I love that perspective. And looking at their legacy today, while the raiding image grabs headlines, it's the undercurrent of cultural synthesis and influence that truly intrigues historians. It's a reminder that history's messy and, rarely black and white, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the transformation over time into organized medieval societies is a prime example of how, even the most tumultuous eras evolve into periods of growth. Sort of like the final, quieter note in a symphony that began with thunderous drums.
Right. That's a neat analogy. And it also reinforces that while the Viking Age as a period had a defined start and end, its echoes continue. Whether in cultural practices, language influences, or even how we view resilience and exploration.
Totally. So, to wrap up, we see that the Viking Age was sparked by a combination of desperate local conditions, innovative technology like those amazing longships, and a fearless spirit of adventure.
Yeah, and it's a legacy that went far beyond destruction. It involved trade, settlement, and a profound cultural exchange that reshaped Europe. I mean, it's pretty inspiring if you look at it from a broader perspective.
Absolutely, and it's a reminder that even in the harshness of nature and brutal times, human ingenuity finds a way to, transform challenges into opportunities. It's like, turning a dire need into a flourishing legacy.
Well said. And it shows that every age, no matter how rough or tumultuous, leaves behind a legacy that shapes the future. That's something we can carry forward in our own pursuits today.
Exactly. So whether you're into epic battles, cultural sagas, or groundbreaking innovations, the story of the Vikings offers a vivid tapestry of human endurance and creativity.
Right. And that's a wrap for today's journey into the Viking Age. We've touched on the geography, the causes of expansion, the dual nature of their legacy, and how it all intermingled to shape new worlds. Thanks for joining in on this adventure.
Thanks for hanging out and diving deep with us. Remember, history isn't just about dates and battles. It's a reflection of our ongoing story of survival and ingenuity.
Definitely. We hope you'll join us next time as we explore another riveting chapter of the past that still speaks to us today. Stay curious, keep exploring, and until next time, take care.
That's the end of today's saga, my friends. If you enjoyed our dive into the Viking Age, show your strength, smash that like button, subscribe to the Valhalla Experience, and sound off in the comments below. Tell us what you love most about Viking history, whether it's the battles, the myths, or the longships that carried us across the seas. Until next time, keep your horns full and your axes sharp.